Good afternoon. I'm Spot On Weather meteorologist Matthew Euler, and we are looking at today's title being Shiver Me Timbers. It's going to be very cold over the next 7 days across southeast Virginia. I thought these pictures were really appropriate of how warmly these people are dressed due to the colder temperatures. So let's get right to the Shiver Me Timbers Spot On Weather forecast. All right, so we're looking first at the satellite and the general observations valid 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the 26th of December, 2017. What we have right now over southeast Virginia is generally high pressure is influencing the weather. We do have a couple breaks in the cloud deck right now outside the Spot On Weather studios. There are some clouds back over the Ohio Valley, West Virginia, and the western part of the state. We do have some more cloudiness well to the south, but you do see we are getting some pockets of sunshine this afternoon across southeast Virginia. So nothing significant in the area right now as far as storm systems go. Looking over here on the right-hand side, just showing you a general station plot of different values. I'll zoom in, and what I want to do is focus in a couple things off this screen. I want to really direct your attention to the single-digit air temperatures, 4 degrees above zero in Chicago, 8 degrees above zero in Peoria, down in Indiana, around Indianapolis, a temperature of 10 degrees Fahrenheit at the latest observation. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm showing you how very cold the air mass is upstream. Generally, whatever happens over the Midwestern U.S., Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, we generally see that type of weather basically 24 hours after they receive it. So I just wanted to show you how very frigid the air mass is back in the upper Midwest and Midwestern area in Ohio Valley. And that air mass will continue the winds are blowing from the upper levels at the jet stream level at 30,000 feet from the Midwest towards the Mid-Atlantic region. And it will continually bring in cold, reinforcing shots of Arctic air in the coming next 7 days. So current analysis, what we have going on the left-hand side, again, I'm showing the main axis of the polar front jet stream. We have a direct flow of cold, very cold Arctic air from high latitudes, north latitudes, all the way down into the northern plain states in the Midwest and into the Mid-Atlantic region at this time. So the jet stream axis is pretty much directed from north to south, ushering in very cold air across the eastern United States as a whole. Here are the temperatures at 5,000 feet, and here is a legend on the bottom of the screen in degrees Celsius. So these oranges and yellows are negative 30 to negative 34 degrees Celsius temperatures at 5,000 feet above the ground. So very cold air that is pushing in to the lower 48 at the present time. All right, now we're going to move into the forecast. So let's take a look at the forecast and see what's happening over time. What's going to happen with this long wave jet stream pattern? What's going to happen with this Arctic air that's just sitting and infiltrating into the eastern U.S.? All right, so initially we have a little bit of a ridge off the west coast of the United States. Again, we have the flow of air at 30,000 feet from the Arctic regions down to the lower 48, the northern plain states, the Dakotas, the upper Midwest, the Midwestern U.S., as well as Ohio Valley into the Mid-Atlantic for tomorrow. We have cold air, very cold air, again, that is just spilling down to the base of this trough across the eastern U.S. And this is the infiltration, the reinforcing shots of Arctic air. Today's temperatures in southeast Virginia, mainly about 41, 42 degrees this afternoon. And then tomorrow it'll be even colder, possibly 37, 38 for a high. And then Thursday will be the coldest day of the week, where highs may only reach the lower 30s across southeast Virginia. Moving on to Thursday, this is going to be the coldest day, one of the coldest days of the period. We have the jet stream again, bringing in much colder air from the Arctic regions. All that Arctic air is just basically spilling into the base of this trough, this persistent long wave trough that's situated over the Midwest and eastern United States as a whole. We do have a little bit of ridging remaining off the west coast of the United States, keeping the warmer temperatures over California and basically into the desert southwest area. Looking ahead now on Friday, the 29th of December, we're getting close to your New Year's Eve weekend. The jet stream remains again from basically a finger of the jet extends from the Arctic regions down to the lower 48. So the cold air will continue to infiltrate. You can see these arrows here, these white arrows represent the overall wind direction at 5,000 feet. And with the arrows pointing from northwest to southeast, that generally indicates continued cold air advection, continued cold reinforcing shots of air for southeast Virginia. Moving on to Saturday, the 30th of December, we have the jet stream again remaining relatively unchanged. We have the cold air, which is really starting to spill in. Even colder air is starting to spill into the northern plain states, the Dakotas into Minnesota. Again, these wind vectors, these white arrows continually show northwesterly winds at 5,000 feet into southeast Virginia. So really there is no change. I guess the main thing I'm going to emphasize here is there's really no change in the upper air pattern to a zonal west to east flow or more of a southwest to northeast flow. These winds at the jet stream level continue to blow in much colder air from the northern latitudes into southeast Virginia and the mid-Atlantic region as a whole. Here is your forecast value on New Year's Eve, showing the jet stream. Now the jet stream, if you notice, there's a little bit of change here. So we had a finger of the polar front jet coming down from west central Canada into the upper plain states and Midwest on Saturday. But now watch what happens with the amplification of the jet. The jet becomes more north to south oriented, and you get more of a jet maximum that starts to rotate around the base of the long wave trough. So there's more digging. There's even greater amplitude of the buildup of this ridge into the Alaska area and western Canada. If you look back here on the 30th, that ridge is there, but it's not as significant in amplitude. It shifts further east and it builds even higher, which results in much colder air spilling down into the lower 48. Looking at the surface chart, we do have an area of snow, which extends from Kansas, southern Missouri, southern Illinois, basically along the Ohio River in southern Indiana and southern Ohio into Pennsylvania, possibly extending into the DC area on New Year's Eve. There is a disturbance to the south here associated with some rain showers over eastern Texas into Arkansas, northern Mississippi, northern Alabama as well on New Year's Eve. And I want you to focus in on this. This is a 1,060 millibar high pressure system. This is about as Arctic as it will get. The higher the surface pressure associated with these highs, the colder the air mass, the more dense it is. So we're looking at a 1,060 millibar high situated on the Montana-North Dakota border, with the cold air and the clockwise flow around the high just spilling more Arctic air, reinforcing Arctic air into the Midwestern U.S. at this time on New Year's Eve. Looking at the Happy New Year 2018 forecast, you see how the jet stream now, the troughing is digging here into the central plain states, which is going to be important because this is your upper level long wave trough. And then you have a surface area of low pressure, which then develops over northern Florida on New Year's Day, the 1st of January. And look at this now. This could be a major snowstorm for the Mid-Atlantic to start the new year in 2018. We do have a lot of rain over northern Florida, Georgia, southern South Carolina with some ice basically extending into North Carolina. And then it's snow into southeast Virginia, back into West Virginia, Kentucky, and Tennessee. So this has a potential to be a significant storm system. We've been talking about this for a while, that conditions are ripe. The long wave pattern, the digging trough in the east, all that stuff, extremely cold Arctic air, all that stuff is basically some really good factors, ideal factors for storm development along the east coast of the U.S. The models are all over the place right now. The European, not really showing this. This is the GFS model here, so we're just going to have to keep an eye on things. And then finally, the forecast valid to January. Your jet stream, it's really amplified. Got a ridge, still situated off of western Canada. We got a deep trough, really digging in at this point in time in the second, really allowing very cold air. Another reinforcing shot of Arctic air to easily spill down out of Canada into the eastern United States, into the mid-Atlantic region. On the right here, I'm showing the vorticity chart again. And again, anytime you have reds, That's a positive vorticity value. You see the yellows and the reds here on the legend on the bottom. Yellows and reds and oranges indicate positive or higher vorticity values. And this is a shortwave trough, which would be supportive of this surface low. So all the conditions in the upper levels of the atmosphere, they come together when you get this vorticity area to move over your location. The reds and oranges and yellows generally indicate rising air motion in the atmosphere. So the final thoughts on the video, what we're looking at is a very cold pattern through 4 January 2018. This pattern is not going to change. We just took a look at how the jet stream remains relatively unchanged throughout this period. So we do expect the troughing to continue. Our strong or deep upper level trough across the eastern United States with multiple reinforcing shots of Arctic air into southeast Virginia. So it's going to be very cold, folks. The coldest days will feature high temperatures only in the lower to middle 30s, with overnight lows dropping to the lower to middle 20s. Wind chills, now this is another important thing, is the wind chills will be as low as 10 to 15 degrees above zero during the coldest mornings and remain in the 20s even during daylight hours on the coldest days. So there's going to be, it's going to be cold, but there's going to be exceptionally cold conditions. It's just, again, dress very warmly. Prepare now for a very cold New Year's Eve if you have outdoor plans. I know some of you may have plans to be outdoors for New Year's Eve to bring in the new year. Be sure to dress warmly. If celebrating outdoors, think of dressing in layers. That's very important. And a couple of minor upper air disturbances will rotate through the base of the deep upper level long wave trough over the U.S. here over the coming days. This troughing, there will be a couple of minor weak storm systems that are going to rotate through the pattern, which may result in very light wintry precip every 2 to 3 days somewhere nearby the mid-Atlantic region. Right now, things look fairly dry. Don't see any major significant systems until the New Year's Day and the 2nd of January. So again, the upper air pattern remains ripe for a major East Coast winter storm. The European model suppresses the moisture well to the south and offshore, while the American GFS model brings in a major winter storm for New Year's Day with significant snow accumulations. So stay tuned for the latest updates from Spot On Weather. It's looking like a very interesting pattern with the weather overall. With this kind of cold in place, if any precipitation were to fall, it would definitely fall in the form of snow or some sort of ice. All right, that wraps things up today on Spot On Weather. Again, happy holidays, everybody. I hope you're having a great time. Remember, if we're not spot on, we're not doing it right. Have a great Tuesday, everyone.